So we got these two sensors that's connected. We got to disconnect those. So to remember how these ones work, well, we know that ignition coil is in the middle, so that's no way we gonna get those confused. But as I was saying, this is another one of those stubborn ones. See, I pushed it forward a little bit and now it's coming off. Push them forward just enough to be able to get them off. This right there. Okay, we got this O2 sensor connector is brown and it's stubborn too, so we're gonna push it forward a little bit until you hear that little click and then pull it off. And all three of these gray ones are ignition coil connections. Yeah, there we go. And here, now, okay. Another important thing is these connectors. You can squeeze these out with some pliers or some needle noses. I don't have any needle noses, so I'm gonna do my best with my hands. You may not be able to get it off as easy, but for now that one came off easy. All right, continuing with disconnecting all of the wire connections. Yeah, there we go. That one is off. Now, in order for me to get down here, these here, can you see down in there? These here where you see that little green, these three pieces right here, those are injectors, fuel injectors. That's the connectors we got to get to. Got to take those off too. Here's another connector here. Got to get that off. Remember, when they stubborn, push forward, pull backwards. See? Sometimes they may be stubborn, but if they went on, they can come off. All right. Now I got this connector here. Okay. These ground wires, I'm gonna take those off after I run into nothing else to pull from the front. It's very, very important that you make sure you put these ground wires back on, and it's also just as important to make sure that you get all of the wires disconnected from the engine, because if you pull this engine a little too far, you're gonna ruin your wire harness. Something on there is definitely gonna be snapped apart or shorted out, and shortages can cause fires. They can also get grounded on the engine, which is same outcome, a fire, or you may even damage some internal parts that you're not gonna be able to just find out what's going on right away. It's electronic, so one thing burns out and it start going haywire with all type of symptoms. So that's what we avoiding. Now, for the vacuum hoses, we know we got to disconnect that brake booster. But what I want to do with these is, the engine is coming out by itself. So the only thing I want to do with this is disconnect the ones that stand on the car. You may not get a chance to see that right away. Okay, now for the ECM, or some might say it's the PCM. Could be the ECM and the PCM. They all sometimes look alike and sometimes don't. But I'm gonna just say that this is a computer, so that way we can know what we're dealing with. All right, I need something to disconnect this with. These tabs. I don't think this is gonna work. I wouldn't suggest doing this, but right now I'm working with all that I have. Like I said, I got sockets, wrenches, and bolts, but I don't really have a lot of needle noses and scissors and, you know, stuff like that. Pretty sure a razor blade could have popped these off too. But for now, I'm gonna just work with this little pry bar. This is actually a nail puller, but I use it as a pry bar. I got 2 pry bars, but for now, this one is gonna work just fine. So now, to disconnect this ECM, there's a little tab right here underneath my finger. Push it in, push up, down. That's simple. Let's do it again. Push in, push that up, and they come right off. You don't want to move too fast with this if you don't know what this controls. So this controls everything on this engine and a lot of stuff inside the car. So once again, you push this in and then you push the connector up. As you can see, we still got a zip tie on there, so we're not gonna get that one off yet. This one here is ready to come out. Let's just get the zip tie out the way. Here we go, small button, push it in, push this button in, push the lock up, make sure it's all the way unlocked before you start pulling. Don't want to shorten anything out. Pull that out, down and down. Now we gotta figure out a way to get that wire tie off. Because I really don't have nothing to get down in there with, but I'm gonna make a way. Let's try this. You just want to break the tie off. That's it, like that. Now, take that off. Push that small button in. Unlock it. Make sure it snaps before you unlock it. Pull it off. Now this should be able to come up, but unfortunately it's not because it's got wires bolted down to it with the 10mm. So we're gonna take that harness connector off. Wait, matter of fact, let's see if we can just take those out of the connector. It don't look like you want to lift up on me. And no, it's not. So we're just gonna take that whole connector off. I like to leave all of that in place. Don't flash it on everything that I'm doing. Just to work. That's fine. Okay. So I might have to make this video in different parts because it's going to be a long video. I'm recording it from start to finish. And another thing about that battery tray, I'm going to take those bolts that I was counting and put them right back in where they bolt in at. Sometimes it's better to stay organized by putting your bolts back into where they bolt in at. If that helps you be more organized, I would do that because you don't want to lose no bolts. If it was on there, put it back. Don't be so anxious to get the job done that you end up not putting everything back to where it go, because it serves a purpose to be there. Here's the purpose of it. Like this, bolting it back in. You want to do that, it saves you. And then that way, if you're doing this type of work for a customer, they say, well, he did it and he didn't leave anything apart. He put everything back to how it goes. And they may recommend you to somebody, especially if you enjoy doing this work. See, and now I just figured it out that this little clamp right here, you gotta push it in and they come off. I didn't have to unbolt that, but it's unbolted now. So it's too late to use this method, but yeah, you see that? It unbolts. I want to keep those connections, those connectors that hold that harness on there and safe from anything. You see, now I'm looking at it again, and pretty much this harness is still connected on here, right here, and it's a little rusty, so I may have to, let's see if I can get that to come up. If I can't, then I may just have to break that plastic piece off of there. See, it's kind of being stubborn. So like it wants to move. Now, the ECM is pulled out. Make sure that you put those right back in the same way that they go in. There's really no way that you can put it in any other way. Okay, so we got that part done. Now look, here's what supports that battery bracket. Remember I said I was gonna put those bolts back in, and I definitely am, but I still got 2 more bolts up under there that I gotta unbolt. Down here, here's a connector that goes to the starter. You wanna take that connector off. Here's the starter battery wire. You wanna take that off. And there's also going to be these same type of 2 connections inside the alternator. You want to take those off. They're not the same, but they serve the same purpose for the electronics to run through that starter and that alternator. All right. Now, with the, yeah. All right. The shifter cable, 13 millimeter. I'll bolt that. Calling out the size of the bolts as I see them. I could be wrong on some of them. Like this one looks like a 14 instead of a 13. I was wrong. My bad, I grabbed a 12 millimeter. Maybe that was the problem. So I was right, it's a 13. See how hard that is? With that, if you don't have a tool that can support taking that off the right way, any bolt that's stubborn like that and don't want to come off, you want to use some PB Blast or some type of penetrating spray that can break through that. See, there we go. Now I'm gonna demonstrate what I was saying about putting stuff back to where it was before you disconnect it. You see this bolt, you're gonna put that back on there. That way when it comes to swapping that other engine out, if I end up not putting that bolt on, I can be like, okay, well, I know for sure I put that bolt back on the other engine. It's just something to save yourself from having that headache. And also, if you do lose a bolt, if you know the size of the bolt and you think you can figure out the thread pattern, just go to an Ace hardware store or Menards or something and go ahead and get what you need. Okay, I was gonna take these ones off. Let's see, I don't think them 13s. I think that's more like a 14 or a 15. It's only one way. Well, that's 13. Okay, so we got that one off. I don't recommend taking them bolts out of there like I'm doing it. I would just disconnect this little holder and then take this housing off and reassemble it with the bolts off, because this is like a little flexible, but it looks like there's some plastic on it. Like I said, I don't recommend just being careless with it, but because I recognize my strengths, I kind of take it easy on how I disassemble things. Always remember, that's the key thing that's important. You don't want to put things on too loose, and you don't want to over tighten it either. Everything on this car has a torque spec, and if you got the manual, you can go by that. So this right here is the gear shifter. Disconnect it off the transmission, out of the way. Oops, go back in. Way of staying organized. You're gonna hear me repeat a lot of things as I go on. I'm not only talking to my viewers, I'm talking to myself to remember. Okay, we got some more connections right here. We got a connection. We're gonna take that off. And some of these connectors I may not be able to get off right away because they may just be a little brittle. And on top of that, I gotta be able to get my access to it without trying too hard. My hands are kind of big. I don't have little hands. My son got little hands, but he's my cameraman right now. He's also my editor too, so he's pretty good with a lot of things. I'm trying to teach him how to be good with these cars, save him some money when he become a grown man. Right now, he's a young man. See, we ain't gonna pull on that too much. When you recognize, if you're having some hard times with something, don't take all the time in the world trying to force it off. Just wait until you get a better aim at doing it. It's always best to do things the best way possible. Never try to do something that you know is gonna fail. I don't believe in hear and know about everything, because if I did, then I wouldn't be doing this job, because some people that I know told me that, oh, you should send that car to the shop. I was convinced I should send it to the shop too, but I also have a priority when it comes to making sure that I got a roof over me and my family head.